Croeso Sianel Blaid Llwyd. Yes, back at the Minotaur Hotel again. See what's going on with Asterion and Leo, and we might be getting a new member of staff in this episode. So, let's see what's going on there. As pallid starlight fades, dims, and then hides behind the brighter shining chariot of Helios, so too do the Minotaur's thoughts recede back into his mind's depths with the lazy arrival of morning. Those thoughts, so sweet as they indulge in them under the cover of darkness, are far too decadent for the light of day. Duty and propriety, the uniform and sash of his office, are drawn back around his naked wanting. But much like the stars behind the sun's light, and much like his nudity under the clothing he's picked out for the day, his reveries linger in what shadows they can find. They cling to his legs like shy children as he returns to the master's apartment. They peer at him from around the corners of the hallway and over the banister of the stairwell. They hang from his wide shoulders, and the tickle of their whispering to his ears stokes the heat in his cheeks and in his belly. He wants to share that want, improper as it may be. But Leo told Asterion, what feels like countless lifetimes ago to the deathless bull, that he could speak freely to his lord whenever he wanted. And the master's word is law, is it not? Humming a quiet tune, the sound made light and sweet by the curve of his smile, the Minotaur goes to greet that beautiful man who holds Asterion's mind in the palm of his hand. But woeful, gladless tragedy strikes. The sweet-sounding honey-tongued lord is not yet up. What can a most bovine friend do? He sits on the couch and waits, expecting to hear footsteps that do not come. Tail swishes to and fro, while hooves threaten to scrape the wood floor. Without thinking, he chews on nothing at all, searching for words he knows not what to use for. Time ticks away. What an unbearable torture it is. Decades in the cold room did not bring this stirring in his limbs. He decides to keep himself busy, tidies the couch, dusts the dining table, washes dishes, cleans the kitchen, brews coffee, cooks breakfast, dirties the kitchen and dishes, cleans up again. And still the master sleeps. In his selfishness, the Cretan prince does not care if the food goes cold. All he wishes is for... He pretends he cannot put it into words, and the thought fades as stray chores pop up all over the place. Half a dozen droplets run down his brow by the time he's done, while his back is streaked by streams of sweat. Heat outside, disquiet inside, agitation all over. The Minotaur cannot let himself stop, so he takes a final look around. And is caught off guard, as if unforgivably naked, by a small mirror on the wall. The split second when a man is made witness to his own body, the thickness of his neck, the wetness in his eyes, the pink of his snout. His horns, too, except their clumsiness, is gone. What blessing has been given today that they feel so majestic and noble? Oh, little star, we hoped and prayed the gods made you strong as the sea is deep, that you could live to witness a moment like this. With both hands the prince takes hold of his horns, tugs. And how easy it is, guiding this mind of his to fine pastures where sweet fruits are plentiful. Then his sight is pulled to something just as noble, but less polished by far. His face and all its fur, messy from the rooftop's wind and made wet by his own sweat. He scratches his cheeks, which does nothing to tidy the fur going every which way. So he trots on to his bedroom for his brush, then back to the living room. Bare-chested, he sits by the window to enjoy the sun as it warms his freshly brushed fur. The Minotaur delivers himself to this pleasure. With eyes so sweetly closed, he dreams of the fields of crocus from his childhood. As if he was transported back, The soft scent of saffron, the sound of sandals walking over stony roads, the voice of a friend most noble approaching. The Minotaur breathes deeper than he's done in centuries, and by the 12 he smells like sea spray and sand, sunlight and the morning's breeze, hard work and honesty. Asterion hums as he brushes his front, taps his hooves on the floor while tightening his arms, sings when reaching to his back. And that's how you find him, singing his ancestral Minoan, with eyes closed in revelry and his back towards you. You take a sip of coffee. You didn't even hear it when you came out and poured yourself a mug. Despite the drowsiness, you take in your surroundings, the impeccable living room, food ready at the dining table, a veil of stray fur floating around the couch, the unmistakable smell of sun and sea. And Asterion, of course, more cheerful than when you signed the contract of rings. Another sip of coffee. You gather words for compliment, or perhaps a piece of witty commentary. But all that comes out is a half-asleep grunt. Asterion's singing trails a nuclear rhythmic stream of words. A greeting, a compliment, and an apologetic apology if the coffee is cold, a proud excuse if the food is not just right, all the while branching that brush and talking about back this and that. You must close your eyes and focus and make sense of what the Minotaur is saying. It's so much at once. Today I was thinking back and about you. I was up in the rooftop. It was so refreshing seeing the sunrise with all the wind on my face. And well, sorry to have you see me like this. It's been so long since I brushed my fur. Plus the sun under the window feels so good. And I was thinking back to when. Back this, back that. You sip your coffee again, which triggers a rapid firing of neurons in your paralyzed brain. In a flash, it all makes sense. Back? You want help brushing your back? Pardon? You want me to brush your back? Moo? He's holding the brush out towards you, hand limp and half extended. His only reaction when you collect is to follow your every movement with his wide-awake eyes. Your eyes lock for a second or 5. You move to walk around the sofa, but he turns his back to you so you don't have to. Brushing his fur over the couch, however, is awkward, so you walk around and sit beside him, and he awkwardly twists his back to make it accessible to you. But it still isn't right. Asterion raises his legs and puts them on the sofa, kicking a few pillows in the process. He readjusts to give you complete access. You lay a hand on his shoulder. Its fur is short but shedding, and beneath it is a fine layer of fat padding him. Deeper still, there's firm, hard-working muscle. You stroke down his spine to feel out his fur, smooth, and it shines when sunlight strikes it just right. It smells of salt water and seaweed. The Minotaur's tail swishes between your legs. You readjust to give it space, then scoot an inch closer so you can brush. Meanwhile, Asterion straightens his back. Then he hunches over, straightens and arches it again, and settles on hunched at last. He looks back at you, eyes wanting something, and you start. Gentle at first. The brush only drifts over his slick fur, as gentle as the sky is blue. Asterion scoots a fingertip closer, and you take it as a sign to dig in, enough to feel the contours of his musculature. Neck like a sturdy column of granite, traps like a pair of laurel wreaths crowning his shoulders, lats like an eagle's wings. All drawn taut like a bow about to release an arrow. You run the brush down his spine. He lets out a chest-deep groan. Brushing the small of his back comes with a flick of his tail and ears. Again and again it goes, as many times as necessary to shed all the ancient fur. Silence is not uncomfortable. There is peace in brushing the Minotaur's fur. Little grunts he can't hold back, then your hand tracing over his step-wide back. However, one can't help but be curious. How did you ever get this strong? Asterion's ears flick, but he doesn't look back. I trained in archery ever since I was a boy, and helped in the fields as well. Later I learned other forms of combat. You press harder, taking the chance to undo the knots of tension on his back. His tail swishes and hits your legs. But I suppose it's also my lineage. I wasn't exactly normal. This is how I used to look. I had a blessing or two from the gods. He clasps his hand together. That alone sends contractions all the way to his shoulders, while chewing on his own words shifts his jaw and neck. Slowly, carefully, he picks what to say. But it all falls apart as a giggle overtakes him when you brush the middle of his back. Whatever he planned to say is gone. Still, he takes the leap. Today I was thinking about you, my king. I'm sorry, I recall you making a promise to call me Leo. King of Kings. No, that's not my name. Almighty Lord of mine. Leo. He looks back to you and sticks out his tongue. Absolute monarch. Very well, proceed with what you were saying. I was thinking a lot about you. Good things? He arches his back. Exclusively. That's a relief. Can't have my business partner dissatisfied with my performance. The Minotaur grumbles and squirms in his seat. His tail thrashes around as he shakes his head. He does not look at you. This time, however, he makes an effort to keep his gaze focused ahead. It may be presumptuous on my part. I don't know if it's right or respectful to say it, but... Would you believe me if I said that you were shaping it to be one of the finest masters the hotel has ever seen? Before you can say a word, he cuts you off. Forgive me. Not one of. The finest of them all you will be, I hope. Oh, I'm that good, huh? In just a few weeks I'm already ahead of gentlemen like Jean-Marie? Asterion scratches his cheeks with both hands, just as the redness comes up to his ears. Jean-Marie was a fine man, but you are made of something else entirely. The hairs at the base of his neck, fine, delicate even, all stand on end. Like metal and marble, that's how different the two of you are. And what exactly makes us different? Asterion looks back at you, eyes wet and reflecting sunlight. His breathing is just a tad agitated, too deep, too quickly. He hugs his own legs, then sighs as he looks away. No answer comes, but a dozen brushstrokes later he speaks again. No, this is not what I was thinking earlier. It was something else entirely. I don't think I've been fair with you. You've treated me with a kindness unlike anything I've... And yet, I was afraid of you. But not because of anything you did or said. It was all due to what I've been through. You remind me of one of the finest men I've known. You, what you've done and how you act. You are unique among them. You'll be the finest master this realm has ever seen. But what I was thinking today was how blessed I am to know you. And should I call you my friend? Doubt threatens to capture me. It whispers things to me. But your words and actions are clearer and more absolute than anything in this realm, and I would be a fool to deny the affection I feel for you. I must call you my friend, for it is true and I know you feel the same towards me. You will be the greatest lord this realm has ever seen. But beyond that, by far, you will be my favorite. My friend and my business partner. However, you raised me into your equal. But this one time I ask that you take my gratitude to the hotel's keeper. If we are to believe the Romans, there are many kinds of love. That of a parent for their child and vice versa, of God for mankind, a pair of loving darlings. To be under your gentle leadership, kindest and bravest by far, I shall love it, my King of Kings. There isn't anything you can say in response to that, and so as you finish brushing your friend and business partner, you say nothing. Instead, you set the brush aside and hug the Minotaur from behind. Your hands go to his front and meet over his navel. He lays his over your own, rough fingers grazing yours, almost entwining. Your stomach supports the small of his back. The fit is not quite perfect. He arches his back, you breathe in deep. Yet there is an aching gap between you. Your breathing grazes his spine. His comes as a shaking snort. Your scents mix together, so much that both are left with hints of the other. Your voices mingle as well, neither sobbing nor laughter, only involuntary groan, slipping out in a careless moment when two men become something else. Who would have thought that brushing a friend would be such a good way to start a Sunday morning? No doubt it would be a fine, carefree day. No obligations or lingering tasks. No guests checking in or out. No challenges from the snake down in the valley. Perhaps you'd even enjoy the ever-so-rare treat that is a post-lunch nap. And yet, during the afternoon, while you watch the news from the outside world, you found Asterion looking at you a tad odd. Even when you put on a documentary about Greece's economy, complete with drone stock footage and royalty-free songs, he does not look away. Is something wrong? Not at all. I'm feeling well, except for a little thing that's been nagging me. And he lets it hang there. And? Excuse me? What's wrong? Do you want me to brush you again? Not yet, no. I was just thinking it could be fun if we went out and did something. That could be nice, yeah. Anything in mind? I was thinking about the reception. What about it? What's fun in there? Well, not much, but there's something fun we could do. How about... Have you ever thought about improving and renovating it? Some work we could do, sure. The power outlets are troublesome there, and the desk doesn't have space for a proper computer. How about we take a look at this Monday? Sound good to you? But wouldn't renovating it be fun? We could do it today, Leo. I don't know. That sounds like a lot like work during my day off. No. If we're together, it'll be so much fun. You just need to give me a few pointers and I can do the heavy lifting. A troublesome request. You allow yourself to sink into the sofa as protest against its violation of your workers' rights. Please? I don't know. I'm feeling very cozy right now. Plus I haven't even changed out of my pajamas. Today seems like the perfect day to stay in. He nuzzles your hand with his wet nose. Now, that's just a low blow, mister. We are doing nothing right now. Why leave for later what we can do now? Because it's our day off. His eyes lock onto yours, lost in thought, then slide down to your hands. But the glimmer of liveliness overtakes them and spreads to his flicking ears and swishing tail. I'll let you brush me again. He knows just how much you enjoyed it. There is no escape now. Okay, you win. I'm not going to change from my pajamas and don't expect me to do much. The giggling bull leaps out from the sofa and trots off to the door. You take your sweet time getting up, looking for your flip-flops. You put the first on the wrong foot, then realise the second is from a different pair. Meanwhile, Asterion paces around like the caged bull he is. At least for the first minute or so, after which he follows you at a distance around the apartment. Ready? You give him a devilish smile. I haven't found my favourite flip-flop yet. And? I'd either have to go barefoot or wear mismatched ones. That's not a good look for the master of the hotel. Don't you want me to be dignified? Oh. He grabs your hand and pulls you out of the apartment, not giving a single thought of the fact you're only wearing a single flip-flop. This is what happens when you give the bull too much freedom. He grows bold enough to boss his master around. Once in the reception, you sit down on the sidelines to tune out while Asterion works his very little magic. That won't do. He expects you to be a participant here. Well, what if we change this doorway into an arch? I also have a different idea for the walls. Well, what do you suggest for the floor? How about a marble floor? That should help keep the whole place cool, even at noon. I know just the one we can use. Let's have a different desk for the reception. It should still be this tall, but make sure you add space for a computer here. How about a flower pot here? I know we can't create plants in the hotel, but could we use fake ones? Well, the asphodel flowers by Lord Hades' statue. There'll be no issue with bringing some in. Anything else? I was thinking of bringing the lounge closer to the reception. I could reroute it so there's a door leading to it right by the desk. You can just move entire rooms around. Of course. Allow me to draw up a proposal. How about this? Now that's much better than the old reception. Looks more like a bank than a welcoming hotel. Oh, well, it's what Jean-Marie wanted. I didn't have much of a say in the matter. Well, then you have the freedom to execute your ideas. Anything else we should renovate? For a century or so, I've had some ideas for a new front facade for the hotel. Considering they're reopening officially soon, we could try doing that sometime this week. For now, are there any other modifications we should make to the reception? Let's use our arts background. It does feel maybe just a tad barren. Perhaps we could add a little something to breathe some more life and class into the whole place. As you carefully inspect the renovated reception, try to think of suitable decorations. A shiver runs down your spine. It's a strangely familiar sensation, one you felt on your second day at the lounge. The hotel demands a choice once again. I know of a painting you might like. Let's just say it's very appropriate for our circumstances. There we go. The Minotaur by George Frederick Watts. Right little twist to it. What do you think? I like it. Oh, absolutely. Unrelated, but lately it seems like you're going out of your way to please me. Can't help but feel this painting is another such instance. Yeah, it's just a great work of art. There's no way I'm trying to make you happy. You give the bull a playful smile. He lets out a quiet moo in return. Let me look it over one more time. Give me just a moment. What in the Sam Hill happened here? Not much. Asterion wanted to renovate the reception, so we used hotel magic. How'd you like it? Like it? Partner, don't get me wrong, said Pre-in-law. You almost gave me a goddamn heart attack. I expect to walk into a whole new room out of nowhere. Don't blame me. Asterion's the one who had the idea of doing extra work, so we were bored. Wait, aren't you on your day off? Yes, I am. Master's work is never done, it seems. Luke scratches his chin, then looks you up and down. Are you still wearing your pajamas? Damn, it's almost 4 p.m. Also with a single flip-flop. Asterion dragged me down here against my will because he wanted to play interior designer. I couldn't be bothered to put on clothes and he couldn't wait for my flip-flop. That's so romantic. Look like a lesbian couple out on their first IKEA visit. Is the U-Haul parked outside? There's nothing romantic about this. Besides, Asterion and I are just friends. Well, I think this is indeed it for now. Shall we head back up so you can brush my fur again? Luke bursts into a ear-splitting shriek of laughter. Like fucking clockwork. I told you I was sweeter than stolen honey. I gotta say, I let you pack and keep a bottom this big satisfied, Leo. Luke, for the love of all that is holy, shut up or I swear I'll pluck each and every feather from your ugly face. Feisty, like a top well should be. You're in good hands, Asterion. This one knows how to dish it out. I'm sorry, I don't understand what's going on. Your precious little bean. Never change. Now, Leo, before you pluck every feather off my handsome face, Kota wanted me to invite the two of you to his room. It's been like doing a cozy movie night. All the usual suspects are invited. 8 p.m, alright? Don't you two miss it. And bye, you ain't getting your hands on me that easy. So, Russian now, movie later? The remainder of the afternoon supervising Asterion's redecorating spree is spent in relative calm, barring a single interruption. A quick jaunt back to your quarters brought something more appropriate. Luke may mean well, but a part of you bristles at the prospect of giving him any more ammunition with which to tease you, about the nature of your relationship with Asterion or otherwise. Likewise, you'd definitely be testing the waters by showing up to a get-together with Kota in nothing but your pyjamas. Even if he's softened his standards recently, the possibility remains he'll take exception to your choice of dress, and harbour a quiet resentment towards you for violating some arcane standard of etiquette. Begrudgingly, you shuffle back towards your quarters to change before you head in the direction of Kota's room. Though you balk at the idea of getting fully dressed on your day off, it's hard to deny that it'll probably cause everyone involved less fuss in the long run. The only most comfortable pair of jeans takes hardly any time at all, and in short order you've collected Asterion and made your way to the Dragon's Door. Leo, Asterion, you're right on time. Please come in and make yourselves comfortable. We'll begin shortly after everyone has taken their seats. As the dragon ushers you in with a foppish bow, see his setup is relatively straightforward. At the foot of his bed, Kota has placed 4 simple wooden chairs a short distance apart, facing the television on the opposite wall. On screen, a black and white image of a young Japanese woman illuminates the room with a silvery glow, being streamed free from a popular video hosting site. Cuffing his hands around his mouth with a makeshift megaphone, the blue dragon bellows. Luke, we're about to start. Leave your pants on, I'm in a little boy's room. Unfazed by the sudden shouting, you look at the video's title and then turn your attention towards your host. Late spring. I want to take the opportunity to share a little bit of Japanese culture with all of you, so I chose an old drama by an esteemed director. I should have known you'd be fond of Ozu, the most Japanese of directors. Ha, am I so easy to stereotype? I don't mean to stereotype you or him, but the emotional kinship seems clear. It's a great compliment to be compared to that elder statesman of the Seventh Art. He's also known for his love of good sake, right? Truly a man of kingly taste and sensibility. Granted, it may be a little too intellectual for our exceptionally American friend. I hope the rest of us will be able to enjoy it nonetheless. This won't be very relaxing even have to worry about the two of you trading barbs the whole time. Thought you guys had gotten over insulting one another at every turn. That was my intention, Leo. You know what they say about old habits, Steinhard. As a matter of fact, I go so far as to say he's been rather well behaved. Well, of course, an ill-conceived attempt to rifle through my undergarments earlier. I only meant to say I don't believe this film will be to his tastes. Upon my honour, I swear to you I have no intention of doing him any harm. This time. In time it takes for Kota to catch up on Luke's latest escapade in Fundoshi Filchin, the Griffin has materialised from deeper in the apartment. After a perfunctory greeting, he plops into the nearest available seat without a moment's thought. So out there, wait. Let's light this candle. Asterion sits next, though the chair lets out a creak of protest beneath his bovine bulk, and you catch sight of the bull's thighs tense in anticipation for collapse that never comes. Even so, it still takes a good few minutes for the Minotaur to relax, in which time you seated yourself to his immediate right. You contemplate reaching out to take his hand, only with a sudden combination of motion and sound to crash that train of thought. The movie has started. After a quick trip to the light switch on the dragon's part, the room is plunged into near total darkness, leaving little avenue but to focus on the film. Still, the unquiet mind is ever capable of finding fresh sources of distraction. You begin to act on your earlier urge, careful to keep your arm's motion obscure behind the Minotaur's silhouette as the gap closes, only stop short upon the realization you are being watched. As your hand nears his body, Asterion's shoulders rise and his neck muscles grow taut with the effort of resisting the instinct to turn his head. Such an unsubtle motion will give you both away. Whether right to meet your gaze or left to avoid it, he cannot bear to move so thoughtlessly. Like the drawing of a bow, the Minotaur's patience strains towards release. Before the string can snap, a deep exhalation dissolves the knot of worry in his chest. He looks at you, pleading eyes, soft and utterly human, flick in your direction. And then, hesitantly, he nods his approval. Just a few millimeters is permission enough. It's only then you make contact with his thigh. In contrast to the meditative calm of the tea ceremony that begins the film, and the contemplative comedy of manners that proceeds, there is a growing agitation in Asterion's mien. Despite the dim light, you see his fingers twitch, curling and uncurling the empty air as if seeking the phantom lyre string to pluck. Then, round what you assume to be the end of the first act, you give his knee a purposeful tap with your forefinger, and a snort of surprise escapes his flaring nostrils. How brazen can a man be, even in the company of friends? How much do you dare to chance? The cover of darkness can only hide so much, and yet he gives no sign of wanting you to stop. Like the beating of the shoulder drum in the nose scene, the insistent tapping of your fingers seems to spur the Minotaur to begin his own affectionate overture. Tail swaying to match your tempo, Asterion responds with a sharper exhale before your silent performance begins its next movement. Millimetre by millimetre, his hand creeps closer to yours. In the intervening time you readjust, rotating your palm skyward in preparation to receive him. When his forefinger brushes the edge of your hand, the sudden rush of slick fur against your skin gives you pause. Anxiety is palpable in every tiny drop of clammy warmth that emanates from the Minotaur's meaty mitt. Even so, the advance continues until his hand has all but engulfed yours. With eyes locked, you apply the slightest pressure with your fingers. Watch Asterion's demeanour continue its subtle shift. Fingers splay and lips part, only for the latter to be bitten back by the Minotaur's front teeth. In his throat you hear what you suspect to be the strangled beginnings of a moo. Through his palm, his pulse thunders into yours. He squeezes back, just hard enough to answer, and you loosen your grip as the cycle begins anew. Squeeze, relax. Atria, ventricles. The two-part harmony of your heartbeats mutes the movie into black and white noise. For either of you knows it, the credits roll, and Asterion's grip turns vice-like as the sudden light shatters the dreamy atmosphere. As everyone knows, premarital hand-holding is a sin. You've almost certainly been caught red-handed. You brace yourself for a merciless round of rib interrupt, only for a different sound to cut the silence. Luke is bawling his eyes out. He even pulls out a white handkerchief from his pocket, using it to dry his tears before loudly blowing his non-existent nose into it. From what you can gather through the unintelligible bird noises, if you tear up the entirety of the third act, then gentle comedy's culmination in the deep, quiet tragedy of everyday life, sending him careening over the edge of composure. Though your discreet dinings with Asteron kept you from absorbing much of the context, it seems Luke's sensitive side has come out in full force, to everyone's apparent shock. Eventually, Kota rises to his feet and attempts to comfort the sobbing griffin, only to wince in discomfort as Luke draws him into a backbreaking hug. The all-American himbo has no qualms about burying his beak into the dragon's robe, while he vents tears, snot, and frustration with the film all the while. Over the griffin's shoulder, Kota looks you in the eye, starting to motion for help. The words die when his gaze drops downward. The side of your finger still interlaced with Asteron's resign him to his fate. He waves you off with a flick of his wrist and leans back into the hug. The journey back to your quarters, however numerous the flights of stairs between you and your goal, passes peaceably. In the silence of the hotel's empty halls, the subtle rhythm of your courtship reasserts itself. The music swells, vivace heartbeats, andante footsteps, and the occasional squeeze of the hand mark your passage as you lope off together into the night. And the night alone bears witness to these two souls. It just ain't right. Noriko's barking out his life like it were nothing at all. There comes a time for every parent when they have to let their children go. He made the right choice. Let his daughter live, rather than allowing her to sacrifice her best years for his sake. Larky, don't be a high-minded horse at the order of human history if you want. I was wanting to make sure your folks are taken care of, selfish. Noriko's whole marriage is built around that lie. Her dad's going to be okay without her. Ain't no way she can be happy. What a good a man a new husband is. She finds out she's tricked into being where she's at. A tall Turner would have been just as tragic. They both stayed as they were. She'd have taken care of her father until he died. And then what? She'd have woken up one day middle-aged, childless, and married, with no prospects in life. Oh, she could have been happy they just both stuck their guns at the outset. They're lying to each other. It gets bleaker the more I think about it. They both don't want to get her hitched. There's an impression on both and giving up everything just because society thinks it ain't right for a woman her age to be single. There just ain't no way to live. Being miserable for someone else instead of happy for yourself. Come now, it's not as bad as all that, is it? Really? You mean tell me you ain't never had anyone or anything you cared about more than what other people thought about you? No, you're stout as if the whole world was against you? The dragon flinched and then went limp in Luke's grasp, though the griffin's words had crushed the life out of him. He seemed to shrink into himself, however briefly, and Luke took notice, slowing his mad rant to a crawl. Through the veil of his tears, the eagle's brow furrowed in concern, for a more familiar look of blithe jacassery overtook him. Jesus, Code, I'm sorry. I really am. I had no idea things were so awful back home. No one has suicide rates through the roof and everyone wants to fuck. You all got nothing to live for. Excuse me? As he waits for his King of Kings to finish preparations for the day, the Minotaur sits by the dining room table. He hums a string of songs as he grazes his hooves over the floor, tracing the seams between the wooden tiles. On the table is a wooden fruit bowl. He runs a finger over its rim, smooth with a matte finish, ever so lightly speeding up the movement until the bowl spins. The Minotaur had summoned the wood, and his mind's eye had chiselled it from its brutish shape. Leo, meanwhile, had filled it with fruit, ripe red apples, bountiful bananas, perfect pears, bunches of grapes overflowing like a maiden's hair. A sight to behold, both in appearance and in fullness. It wobbles as the Minotaur spins it, but not so much as to tumble. He swipes his hand, pushing the bowl to a yet greater speed. It does not lose its balance, neither do its grapes launch off in a tangent. Asteron flicks his ears and giggles. What a fine fruit bowl, a fitting centrepiece for their dining room. To spin forevermore, yet never tumble down. You witness it all from the other side of the room, to go over your notes about today's activities. You look down to your coffee mug. It's painted with a smiling bunch of grapes. and needless to say the coffee is delicious. Asterion, without a care in the world, goes from humming to whispering verses. Lord of hosts, the all-cloud gatherer, makes jolly your home, makes decisions just. Your simple acts are prayers to Zeus, my lord, each action weighed and balanced rightly so. Someone's happy today. Is that one of your old poems? Asterion flicks his ears, all the chirping is for a hummingbird flapping its wings. A poem, yes, but not old. It came to me just now. Today the muses are generous, their blessings swell my chest. Already found threads for half a dozen poems more. I'll take some time after work to write them down. Lovely. If you want someone to read them over when you do, then I'll be willing and ready to help. Always so kind. I would appreciate it, my good lord. Hey, you meant to call me by my name now. Asterion plucks a few grapes in the fruit bowl and giggles. Well, must, or should. Should I, or must I, then? And what if none compel me call you such except myself? Perhaps a 9 as well. To call a spade. Oh, master good. One I am free to disregard, another is a command I cannot ignore. Or what will it be? We made a promise, you cheeky rascal. Isn't your word binding and absolute? Asterion's smile cracks wider. He scratches his cheek while munching on a mouthful of words. There's much to say and more to do for us from day to day, and times appear which halt the opportunity for much to say. However, now the muses call your name. Another poem from my gracious friend. You really are on a roll today, huh? There's no squirming out of it, you promised. That is true. Then it's neither command nor suggestion, for a promise is an order placed on oneself. As for being on a roll, I find myself enjoying the idea. Oh, just saying that makes me... it's embarrassing to admit it. It is, however, the truth. He hesitates, red showing through the fur on his cheeks and blooming across his snout. And then... I recall you invited me to hug you if I ever so desired, and I extended the same offer to you. Oh, we've seldom made use of that. Would it bring you comfort if, going forward, if I took you up on your invitation? Of course. All the fuzz makes hugging you very relaxing. Oh, likewise. I don't mean to say you have fuzz. Hugging you, it calmed me down a great deal before the concert. It did seem very tense back then. I'm glad it helped, but if I'm being honest, it's quite enjoyable for me as well. In that case, would it be acceptable if I... You open your arms to the step-wide Minotaur. Asterion's embrace is soft, like the waves as they lap one's feet on the beach. His breathing follows the sea's rhythm, made all the more evident by how much he smells like salt water. Lay your head on his chest and enjoy his heartbeat, as peaceful as the sky is blue. Enveloped as you are by his arms, the undertones of his scent become clearer. There's a dusty aspect to it, but as you become accustomed, you notice even more. He smells like rich, life-bearing earth after a light rain, when the sun breaks through and warms the water into vapour. Hidden, still, there's an odour harder to pin down, similar but not identical to the others. It's the mist arising from the meeting of river water with the sea. On top of it all, there's an all-too-human scent, the comforting smell of skin, like the one left on a pillow and bedsheets after years of use, as well as the proud, not unpleasant bitterness of a most virile man. Asterion nuzzles his nose on top of your head. His breathing comes measured, controlled, although his heartbeat quickens and his hands twitch. His tail, however, is relaxed. Through his finely curved lips, a grunt, or perhaps a whimper, escapes, making way for a giggle to follow. Finger by finger, the two of you disengage. At the end, your arms graze together and hesitate before growing further apart. What a good way to start a day. I'm glad you're feeling well. I thought for a moment Clement's letter would sour your mood for a while longer.
It has been weighing on my mind as of late. Our conversation last night made me feel better, even if I know not quite what to think yet. I'm trying not to let it overtake me, Leo. Your kindness is welcome, but I prefer not to be overbearing with my emotions. But that's not the topic I wanted to discuss today. Is there anything else I can do to bring you comfort, Leo?
I'm not sure. The brushing from yesterday already got me in a good mood.
In that case, there is another thing I was meaning to bring up with you. I'm afraid it will sound odd, but I hope not too much so.
Don't be shy, I'm sure it's fine.
Only that there are a few things I used to wear, and I'm not sure how they may be received nowadays. For a while, I had my horns engraved. Do you think that'd be appropriate?
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be.
And how about a nose ring?
Well, that'd be a bit on the punk side of things, I'll admit. The Minotaur's expression is blank but open at the word. He raises his eyebrows. Oh, right. That's a subculture that started up in the late 20th century. It's all about anarchy and lashing out against authority, and piercings are a big part of the fashion. Although, given that you're a Minotaur, I wouldn't be surprised if people associate you wearing a nose ring more with, well, cattle.
I suppose that is to be expected. I have heard comments along those lines before. I wasn't too bothered by it. It would be different had I been forced to wear a nose ring by the masters, for I started back in Crete. It was a gift from my father. He gave me a golden bracelet when I was a boy. When I grew it, I had my nose pierced. After some tinkering, used it as a ring. During my stay in Hades, I kept wearing one, and did so over my years here whenever the masters allowed me to.
Are you asking me if I'll allow you to?
No, not quite. I know you'll let me. What I want to know is if you think I would look presentable with it.
I can take a look, sure. But will you have to pierce your septum?
Well, not at all. In fact, neither will have to make a new ring. I kept my old one safely stored in my room.
Okay, let me see how you look and I'll tell you what I think.
Thank you.
So, let's take a look here. Check out his horn accessories while we're in here. Engravings look nice. I think we can go with that. Especially if Asterion likes it. I think he looks good. There. A nose ring does look pretty good on you, actually.
Thank you. I didn't want to boast too much, but I've always liked how it looks on me.
How does it feel? The Minotaur puts a hand over his nose and gingerly raises the ring. He runs his thumb over the inside and lets it fall down.
It feels odd after so long without it, but it's comforting too. I use a toy that whenever I was anxious. I've grown to enjoy how it tickles me.
Well, you look great with it. Everyone will be jealous of you now.
Somehow I doubt that'll be the case.
Oh, you're wrong on that one, buddy. Owner of a supernatural hotel and handsome? What's not to envy?
I suppose you're right if one had to find company to surround myself with. Now, shall we go?
And with that, the two of you set out for a new day. A new day's dawning is a curious thing. To many, the rosy border between one day and the next signifies hope, the endless possibility the future holds, and the potential for a fresh start, whatever one's mistakes. Given infinite time, even the most accursed of men might find peace and work towards bettering themselves and the world around them. However, few have such a luxury as infinite time.
To many, many more, it has no meaning at all, as irrelevant as the lapsing of one moment into the next. Solitary, poor, brutish, nasty, and short though life may be in the state of nature, is nonetheless pure in its simplicity. Surrender is never an option, the war of all against all, whatever vain ideas man may harbour the contrary. One can no more remove themselves from the state of nature than they can gouge out their own stomach so as not to feel hunger. Such is life for man, the most spoiled and miserable of all nature's children. He has at his fingertips more knowledge, more pleasure, more comfort and convenience his ancestor eras past could dream of. When his decadent excesses catch up with him, however briefly, he plays the victim and whines to all that can hear. Occasionally one grows sick of hurting others in innocuous ways and grows more amenable to hurting them directly. One grows sick of pretending the steak at the grocery store wasn't once a living cow. One grows sick of callow morality, of pretense, of artifice and of structure. One wants to experience life for what it is, warts and all, without the need to justify oneself, moralize the amoral or seek meaning in the meaningless. It's a simple truth that life requires sacrifice, in one form or another. Even the plants which draw nutrition from the soil, the air, the light and water must fight for those resources amongst themselves in subtle ways. None are exempt from the struggle for existence, nor from the inevitable death and decay that follows. By that measure, all are equal. For all that walk, fly, swim, crawl, drift, or otherwise locomote upon the earth, dissatisfaction and change are the only constants. From that harsh mother, necessity, springs progress in all its forms. For forests, progress is a matter of succession, of hardy pioneer species like moss and lichen colonizing an uninhabitable area, or rendering themselves obsolete by their own impact upon the world around them. Built upon the backs of those tiny creatures, a mighty forest may rise on barren land. An apex community will eventually emerge that bears no replacement, at least until the next disturbance forces the cycle to begin anew. For man, progress is not altogether too dissimilar. It is the decaying of ideas, of skills, and of the people who practice them, in favour of newer and more efficient ways in tireless pursuit of an apex that shall never arrive. It is the replacement of the craftsman's workshop with the assembly line, of singular tasks with divisions of labour, of fathers with sons and mothers with daughters. It is a succession of flesh with wood, with stone with metal. It is a planting of copper with bronze, of bronze with iron, of iron with steel, and of steel with carbon nanofibre and silicon circuitry. This is the forest in which man lives, the forest he has made for himself, which consumes and then discards him. A living forest of metal and plastic, rubber and concrete, art and artifice, heedless of tiny tribulations and silent sacrifices, of insignificant things like moss and lichen and people. Progress leaves man behind. It usurps his works, wastes his life and plunders his happiness from under him. Surely as the passage of days into weeks, months, years and decades erects his body with age. As communities in various stages of advancement butt against one another, inequity and inequality take root and flourish as beautifully as any poison flower, and as natural as the innate difference between predator and prey. For such animals, progress is simple. It is merely earning the right to exist for another day. The right to live purposefully, to be, cannot be taken away except with a bloody fight for supremacy, tooth and claw, horn and hoof. Or, of course, by the whims of fate, disturbances and disasters of all kinds. Animals don't have to think about things like that. Men do. Let us turn our attention now back to nature. Here we see a lone male wolf greeting the new day with a yawn. From the cave in which he has slept, he awakes to tittering birdsong, utterly unconcerned with anything resembling the human condition, modernity, or the creeping existential despair that accompany them. His lot is a simple one, but not without its fair share of difficulties. Bereft of a pack to support him, he must find food for himself with his own strength and cunning. When prey is often larger than you, hunting them alone can be a dangerous prospect, not an outright impossibility. He can be thankful, however,
Small and medium-sized game are relatively plentiful in the area in which he lives. Likewise, as long as he doesn't encroach too boldly upon the territory of the other wolves in the area, he is free to scavenge leftover meat from their kills for as long as it is available. He sticks to the fringes as best he can, scent marking just enough trees to ward off the occasional trespasser. He knows full well that the crossing to the heart of another's territory means a fight to the death, as do the other wolves. If he is found out and cannot beat the odds, he'll have to abandon his home. Occasionally an older female past her breeding years will wander in, or a younger wolf dispersing from their parents' pack. Their chances of being adopted are slim to none for any and all wanderers. They can only follow their nose to an occupied area, hope that the game there can sustain them, as he has done. Once he has satisfied his need for food and water, he'll patrol his little territory until he tires. This is the nature of his existence as a wolf. Wolves, like men, always take more than they need to survive. And as the conditions of survival grow ever more stringent, so too does their greed grow in kind. The pack's territory naturally expands when food is scarce, and contracts when it is plentiful. He sniffs the air and grumbles lowly to himself, incensed at the presence of other wolves nearby. He smelled them before, but never this close, never this frequently, and never as flagrant in their disregard for his land claim. He is, as they are, used to the cycle as feast and famine as one can be. He is built to endure long periods of starvation. Even so, it has been a week since he last fed on anything of substance, and hunger gnaws him to the bones. Circumstances have forced him to take greater and greater risks to keep himself alive. Now he must hunt large prey, ungulates like moose and bison. Fully grown, they weigh a minimum of quintuple what he does. Their struggling could injure, even kill him with ease. However, all is not lost. In times like these, he finds hope in every drop of urine and nugget of dung that stains the purity of the snowy landscape with the scent of prey. With every exhale, he finds reason to despair, as weighty fatigue escapes his body in a haggard puff of insubstantial mist. As he takes a particularly deep breath, he knows his limit draws near. He needs a kill, and soon. He feels the frigid air invade his lungs, momentarily numbing him to the pain of hunger. Only for a moment. His chest swells, full to bursting as though trying to drink down every hint of odour. There's a group of elk currently meandering through the nearby clearing. His chosen quarry is among them. He has stalked them for the past 4 days, patiently wearing down an old female straggler at the edge of a herd. As time she gets close, she bolts to safety. He follows at his own pace, slow and implacable as death, waiting for her to inevitably tire and fall behind again. Without fresh foliage on which to feed, she has grown weak, as exhausted from the long winter and the chase through deep snow as he is. Weakness exists in any group. Be it by a herd of herbivores or a pack of predators, weakness is meant to be exploited. Though he is but a brute beast, he calculates his angle of attack with the precision and accuracy of any human mathematician. Once a herd departs this clearing, he'll strike. In the open plains, he knows their healthy, full-grown elk can handily outrun even the fastest wolf. Turning the terrain instead to his advantage was beaten him long ago with the harshness of the wild. He remembers. When a layer of thicker ice forms at the top of a deep snowbank, hooved animals cannot stand on it, but wolves can. His paws, wide and flat like snowshoes, help to distribute his weight so he does not face as much resistance while running. He starts to close the distance. The herd will spook, and if all goes well, his target will fall. Every ounce of energy is precious with the prospect of starvation so close, but he won't have a better chance than this. He has no choice. As it has been all his life, it is do or die. His muscles tense, he prepares to make his move, readying himself for the explosive bout of exercise which he must endure if he is to survive. The snapping of a twig trodden underfoot is the sound by which his frail hope shatters. A mated pair of young wolves has alerted the herd to their presence. The old wolf must make his mad rush to keep up or forever lose his chance. They're off in a flash, bodies heaving with the strain of sudden, desperate movement in unfavourable terrain. In an open pair, circles to try and flank the she-elk. They move too soon. Though she's old and hungry, she'll fight to live with all she has left. The female, lighter than her mate, moves in front to separate the panicking cow from her herd. The young male follows from behind, aiming for her vitals. The old wolf maintains a careful distance, close enough to keep up, but not so close as to get truly involved. He continues to conserve his strength until the most critical moment. The scent of blood reaches his sensitive nose as he lopes through the high snowdrifts. As his eyes catch up, he sees the young male has made a hit on the cow's flank just shy of her perineum, too shallow to be fatal. Had he landed it cleanly, the fight would already be over. The elk would, after a few minutes, die of blood loss or shock. As is, the young male must try again. Impatient to deal a deadlier blow, he takes a nasty kick on the second attempt as the cow continues to flail. It's hard to assess the damage, but he's bleeding badly. He gets back up in short order, forcing himself onward despite the evident pain. The hunt is not over as long as he has the strength to stand. The young female keeps steady in her attempt to force the elk back, trying to use the old wolf's location at one side to her advantage. She's clever. Even if he will not join her in the hunt, as long as the cow wishes to avoid him, he can use their advantage. In response, the older male begins to maneuver towards the younger one, refusing to play her game. She'll steer the cow towards them both, or nowhere at all. Though the younger male is wary of this stranger close in the distance, his injuries force him to pick his battle. He hasn't the strength to fight both the elder male and the elk. Necessity sometimes makes for strange bedfellows, particularly among such social creatures as wolves. This next pass is their last chance to make the kill. The younger male's injury will not permit another attempt, nor will the older one's hunger allow him the chance to track this elk again. Their bodies coil, eyes sharp and ready for what is to come. The old wolf pauses to consider this momentary alliance as the she-wolf steers the elk back towards them in a wide circle. In the short term, would they allow him to eat if he helps them? In the long term, could the three of them be a pack? Could he fight them off if they refused him a share of the kill? Dimly, he remembers his first pack, his saturnine sire and his many, many littermates. He makes his choice. The old wolf knows what he must do. A pack is a family, nothing less and nothing more. With few recalled in the alpine air that buffets them all, he resolves to make the interlopers pay for invading his territory and for the ruination of many days' labour. They will become his prey in the stead of the cow. Their flesh shall become his. He will, as the uncaring forest, consume them to prolong his life. If he had the time and energy to track this elk again, he'll brook no further insult from these impotent whelps. He knows, as a wolf, if he does not snuff out the competition, they'll eventually breed and usurp what little he has once their pups come of age. There's no warning as he shoulder charges the other male, knocking him prone right as the elk makes her pass. She tramples him in her escape. Does not stir from the bloody heap in which he lies, letting out only weak whimpers as the pain finally overtakes him. The hunt is over. The she-elk lives to graze another day. As his mate realizes what has happened, she disengages from the chase and turns towards the elder male, jowls parted, hackles raised. He matches her throaty growl with one of his own for making a careful change of position. The two circle one another in a deadly dance, waiting for their best moment to strike. And the she-wolf is clever. Her opponent is larger and more experienced than her. He knows his territory, has defended it from her like for years. He knew that this fight would come. Their match is short-lived. The she-wolf's patience runs out first, and she makes her reckless charge. He draws on his reserves and feints, fastening his jaws around her throat with brutal efficiency. As she desperately claws at him, he does not release his toothy grip on her larynx until she too goes still. He has triumphed. There can be no hard feelings in contests of survival. Both parties are entitled to secure victory by any means with which nature saw fit to endow them. Small comfort though it may be to whoever comes up short, they can at least be said to have done everything within their power to survive. A brute beast has no capacity for entitlement, no sense of wounded betrayal that indifferent fate or capricious chance should raise one up and lay another low. For a time, even man knew that clear truth and accepted it. Whatever would be, would be. Whatever was right. As he catches his breath, his opponent's blood still dripping from his jaws. He surveys the scene before him. 2 young wolves, one dead and the other dying. The older male can now see the younger one's jaw was broken in his struggle with the cow. He can barely breathe, coughing bloody sputum in the upheaved snow. Even had he made the kill, he would not have survived, doomed to a slow and painful demise by starvation or eternal bleeding. The old wolf opens his mouth once more and grants the second intruder the only mercy he can, a quick death. Content with his kill, he buries one in the snow and drags the other a short distance away towards a more defensible position near the tree line. Though he is monstrously hungry, he hesitates for just a moment, an unseen stress in making his stomach twinge. He sinks to his haunches as though he'd swallowed a stone. He has forgotten something. Eventually, however, need overcomes him. He tears through the fat, through the muscle, and into the organs, letting himself the point of discomfort before stalking back to his den to sleep. His dreams are fitful and violent. The familiar walls of his cave seem to close in, dark and oppressive as the ruins of a collapsing house. A sudden sound, a rumble of thunder, jolts him from his meal, and the night wind begins to gust as though crying out for blood. He runs with his siblings such a chaotic flurry of limbs that none can tell where one body begins and another ends. They scrabble hand over foot and paw over paw towards any perceived place of safety. Narrow pastures of stone lead them out into pasture land, into rolling hills. He wants to vomit, but nothing comes, no matter how sick he feels. His pointed ears twitch as he hears a cry in the night. No one's quite sure who began it, but none can resist its call. Until their howling drowns out the cutting wind and crushing lightning, they all don't stop. Together they defy the storm. One by one they scatter and disperse, drifting away like dandelion seeds on the wind. Their nightly howls grow fainter and fainter in his ears until all is silent. A wet gurgle from his stomach resounds off the stone walls, and he wakes from his nightmare. The territory he risks his life to defend seems suddenly both too big and too small for him. Trapped with his thoughts, he realizes that he tires of being alone. He misses the warmth of his youthful days in the countryside with his brothers, and the safety of his father's den. He will find a new pack. When a wolf is stalking prey, they may travel 30 miles on foot in a single day. When one's prey's companionship, however, always weather difficulties arise. In normal circumstances, the wolf dispersed from its natal pack may travel nearly 600 miles before finding a suitable mate in an area in which to establish themselves. However, circumstances are anything but normal for this lone male wolf. He does not seek a mate as such, nor does he wish to sire pups, even though the season is right for it. He wants a friend. He has time to think while he digests his meal, inasmuch as wolves are capable of thinking. He casts his mind back as far as it will go, and contemplates how to satiate this vague and alien longing, different from the usual emptiness of his belly. However, despite this sudden disquiet, he cannot leave so abruptly. Set out aimlessly wandering times of such scarcity would be nothing short of suicide. Even without horns to gore him or hooves to trample him, his incorporeal prey can still kill. As with any hunt, the slightest misstep could prove fatal. Spring is still some weeks away. Dull thoughts, diffuse and meandering, come to him in erratic spurts while he waits for its approach. When he was younger, he lived close to a human settlement. He remembered they had beasts which freely moved among them. Lower animals with horns and hooves, foul, fatter and more succulent from their insolence than any he could catch, and squealing pink things which lacked the ferocious temperament and sharp tusks of their wild cousins. Humans were always much looser with their social hierarchies than most species. By all accounts, they'll adopt nearly anything as long as the creature in question has something to offer them in return. He knows the arrangement in abstract terms. The human provides food and shelter to the beast in exchange for their loyalty or labour. He can work with that. Still, be easier said than done. While there's a brief time and ages past that wolf and human might consider working together on a mad survivalist impulse, that window closed long before he was born. Likewise, he's lived in isolation for so long he has no bearings, no frame of reference he may use to orient himself towards the nearest village. If he is to find one, he must sniff it out. He leaves his den one warm spring day, belly full and spirits high. So deep in the wild smoke is easy to notice once he picks up the scent or sees the lingering plume. He finds only false positives at first, few otherwise abandoned campsites with no humans to speak of, or old cigarette butts discarded by some errant human hunter. However, the weather has been clear and the snowmelt has made the muddy ground perfect for preserving footprints. He stalks off at a middling pace, not close enough to alert any potential humans to his presence, not far enough to lose their trail. By the time he happens upon the settlement, it's been many days since he first set out. Flanked on one side by mountains and another by shoreline, the village is in an evident state of decay. Rusty buildings house aging people, slowly warping and deteriorating like the wood of their homes. Forced by isolation to live off the land, they are the closest to the wolf's lifestyle. Among them, he will seek a kindred spirit. There cannot be more than 100 people in the entire town. Its construction bespeaks a long history of subsistence living. Built around a single central street that winds and slopes awkwardly the uneven landscape, neighbourhoods are small and erratically laid out, with so much space between each house they can hardly be said to exist at all. He'll watch them from afar to scout the herd for viable targets. As with other groups he has hunted, the very old and the very young will be the most vulnerable to his natural weapons. An old man could always find use for a trusty guard dog, whether something as mundane as fetching his slippers or as dramatic as keeping thieves out during the night. In a town like this, so far from civilization, it is easy to imagine someone blind or senile adopting him by mistake. Likewise, a young child might not know any better than to approach a wild wolf, thinking to pet him. You naturally have to contend with the suspicions of the child's parents. As long as he remains suitably docile, you might be able to win them over given time. Before long, he's attuned himself to the podunk hamlet's rhythm of life. In the mornings, a clamour of heavy-booted hunters and fishermen tromping off into the tundra in search of food. Later in the day, the unsubtle crunch of disturbed snow as homebodies tend to their steads and their less able relatives. As the sky darkens, the intelligible nighttime jabber of human tongues wagging, scratching their social itches while retreating back to their homes. His first contact with a human, as a result, lacks any flair for theatrics. This simple moment of direct eye contact, one of his nightly rambles among the tiny township which shunts him into the spotlight. The human, mundane as it sounds, is simply taking out their trash when they chance upon one another in the evening dusk. Not so much an exchange of fearful shouts or warning growls, the two hunters acknowledge one another and back slowly away to resume their respective lives. The wolf takes the human's gift to him, the bag of refuse that is cast aside, and drags it some distance away before tearing it open to sate himself on scraps. It hasn't the freshness or flavour of the meat he's used to, but it's still an easier meal than he's come by in a long time. He's thankful for it. Emboldened by what he perceives to be a positive response, he marks a spot in his memory so he may begin his courtship with humanity. Though he cannot understand their words, he is upon their lips within a day, the crystallization of weeks of vague paranoia into present and palpable psychosis. He has ceased to be a known unknown, a silhouette stalking the shadowy corners of their perception, and as such they cannot ignore him any longer. The stage is set for history to repeat, and none can be quite sure of the outcome. Ancient memories are dredged to the surface, warring for supremacy, his dream of easy meals and comfortable cohabitation against the primal fear which has, for the most part, separated their species into the Neolithic age. The hunt is on. The wolf awakens before dawn. He bids farewell to the fading starlight. His jaws open, loosen a half-audible yawn as he rouses himself from his makeshift shelter, a rocky overhang in which he'd waited out the evening rain. His brief period of careful observations told him the humans will leave their own den soon after the sun comes up, make use of every hour of daylight they can. Thankfully he is not bound by such lame senses. He'd have perished long ago were he so poor-eyed, deaf-eared and given to hyposmia as man. Still, man has other virtues, chief among them avarice, which bends nature to better suit his adult body. As such, an appeal to that greed will be the wolf's chosen diplomatic tool in pursuit of this alliance of convenience. He has, in recognition of the human's gift, thought to reciprocate by sharing some of his most recent kill, A lone young buck that met its fate between his jaws had been driven from its herd. After tearing a horn from its carcass to arm his snare, he posits the meat at the edge of his acquaintance's territory. He'll wait a respectful distance away, both to gauge the gift's reception and to prevent other predators from fouling his offering. If all goes well, they may make further exchange of this sort in the future. It'll take time for they're familiar enough to fully accept one another, but he hopes to persist until he's earned his keep, until he's allowed to add his scent mark to their own without fear of bloody reprisal. Arcane as the ways of men might be to the lupine mind, he cannot mistake the human silhouette looking down where he stands from the second floor of his cave. He marvels the frailty of his would-be master, bare and undisguised. He sees it back away, raising the forelimb towards its snub muzzle. He has to begin shuffling around behind the thin walls so the change in angle obscures his line of sight. The nature of its barks are foreign to him, but he can sense hushed excitement in its tone. His breast swells that the prospect of his quest of companionship may end with the same lack of fanfare with which it began. Then, of course, all hell breaks loose. His ears twitch. He detects similar motion near the nearby houses as dawn continues to break. In the morning twilight, the entire town seems to arouse itself in kind of the wolf's epicenter, single-minded as the biker bees defending their hives. The morning's rush has started early. The old wolf bolts to the sudden shift in routine, paws beating a chaotic rhythm towards the tree line. Later in the night he'll return to investigate what remains of his gesture of goodwill. For now instinct dictates that he must flee. As might be expected of interaction with predators, the flight of one instigates the other to chase. Hardly any time at all the town has gathered a small force of able-bodied men to hunt the animal down and either drive him off or destroy him. It's for their own protection, they tell themselves. Conflicts between men and wolves have seen countless iterations over the millennia, though they've come a long way since the Neolithic. Guns have replaced bows and spears. Days of careful subterfuge and tracking on foot have been outmoded by vehicles of all kinds. It used to be that one could at least pretend that things were fair, that the gulf between man and animal wasn't like the space between heaven and earth. An old wolf can scarce compete with the innumerable advantages man's ingenuity have won him over the generations. In the distance behind him, the wolf's keen ears pick up the thrumming of a source of sound which is harrowing and unknowable to his simple mind. They cannot understand their functions, hear each piston firing in rapid succession, and each tiny explosion propelling the mechanical monster onward in its pursuit. Above, the birds share his sentiments, halting their songs and scattering upon the wind in the flurry of fearful motion. Comes to a brief stop at the edge of a clearing, turning around to face his attackers. Golden eyes dart around, seeking any angle advantage in what remains of his time before the distance closes. The terrain favours neither party, too heavily forested for a car to be any use in a direct approach, and moist enough to make the wolf's paw prints stand out against the otherwise rocky soil, should tracking prove necessary. The men dismount their vehicle at a distance of a few hundred metres, each one hoping to make the killing shot. The elders fan out to seek an optimal angle, looking for a vantage point to which to secure their victory. One, younger than the others, boasts he can make it from where he stands. The others scoff in response, make no attempt to dissuade the glory-hungry youth from his attempt. He'll either succeed or learn to temper his tongue. Hunting, for men as well as wolves, is a realm in which the difference of a few millimetres can alter a killing blow into an effectual waste of effort. Breath must be measured, wind and weather must be accounted for, cornering of the muscles must be balanced against sweat upon the hands. Eyes are made to squint, whether they're on a scope at a dangerous beast or a muzzle at a deer's hindquarters. There's seldom margin for error. The young man pulls the bolt back, rolling around with the magazine into the chamber. Bracing the butt of his rifle against his shoulder, he steadies his aim, checks his sight picture, and pulls the trigger. Only to be interrupted, sabotaged by a purposeful flick to his gun's barrel from one of his seniors. The results speak for themselves. The old wolf lets out a piteous whine as the discharged bullet grazes his right side, a hair's breadth from lodging itself in his chest cavity. Men behind immediately erupt in a heated argument, shouting and coming to blows as such betrayal. The old wolf moves on with a thunderous echo of gunfire in his ears. He sprints towards safety at breakneck speed, moving with such haste the light reaching his eyes becomes a grey and smear of nonsense information. He knows nothing of firearms nor of how he came to harm at such a distance. He understands well enough to run as fast and as far as his legs will carry him. At times fear overtakes all else. Like a flame, it melts away and purifies the necessary element of conscious thought, leaving only the pursuit of survival. Whatever limited cognition the wolf has, his whole body throbs with this sort of desperate, confused vigour, unable to process anything beyond the necessary motion of his limbs. He hardly registers the change in the soil's texture beneath his paws, or sudden harshness of the sun's rays upon his back. When he comes to stop, there are no humans in sight, nor is there a trace of the sea of trees and ice to which he become accustomed. Somehow, he's found his way from his home in the frigid taiga to an expanse of arid shrubland. Still, necessity forbids him to linger to appraise his new surroundings. The hot sand scorches his pores, and the cruel sun threatens to set his cold dark fur ablaze like so much kindling. He lopes on, wheezing, the nearest source of shade, a convenient pile of rocks on which he hopes to wait out the heat of the day while he reorients himself. As the old wolf rests in his makeshift shelter, his keen ears direct his attention across the desert sands towards another building. What modern-day and more cosmopolitan members of mankind would likely recognise as a hotel. Every so often they hear another car roll by and rise to his feet in preparation to flee. None of the metal beasts discover his hiding place, nor do the humans riding them. Their purpose is unintelligible to him as ever, despite the unity of their direction. Beyond the baleful gunfire boom and the occasional backfiring engine, the air is thick with an unnatural stillness, as if the sun's heat had sterilised it long ago and would not suffer it to be defiled again by the ragged rhythm of a breath. With nothing else to do, his eyes wander the wasteland, seeking any familiar signs. No mites, nor fleas, nor flies are in this desert. No herds subsist upon these mere shrubs and thorny bushes. There are no buzzards, no carrion birds to circle fresh corpses, showing the way to sustenance. No clouds, no water for his thirst. Only the men in their solitary shelter on the cliffs incapable of defying the elements. The wolf reaches the appropriate conclusion quickly enough. Something is gravely wrong. There's an evil here, and subtle hatred baked into the very earth beneath his paws. Feels it whispers seething hostility to every sense as it sucks the moisture from his body. His eyes sting as a gust of wind cakes them with dust. His nasal mucosa as soon as cracked and dry as the riverbed below. He pants in a vain attempt to thermoregulate. The napalm air brings no relief. Even in the shade, he burns. His eyes are glass. It hurts to breathe. Death before him, behind him, below him. The oppressive heat alone has kept him still, though his mind races on. He has to leave. He has to leave, and yet, what other choice does he have but to bide his time and let the danger pass? For he knows the hunters could still be on his trail. More than once he works up sufficient courage to start poking around outside his hidey hole, only for a passing car to make him retreat. Only long silence can steal him onward on his journey towards the parking lot. He chances a brief investigation before he makes his way inside. No sign of humans around the metal beasts. Beneath the scent of petrol typical of their species, each has no relation to the others. They, as he, were likely whisked away by some unknown force. The wolf briefly contemplates lapping up the liquids collected in the tailpipes of these vehicles, but a sharp chemical odour makes him think better of it. Given the choice between thirst and possible poisoning, experience leads him to favour the devil he knows. Still, he treads as lightly as he can, unsure what fresh dangers the building may hold. Though he's unsteady on his legs, the solid surface of the tarmac buoys him up. And the sand beyond does not give way beneath him when he moves, or resist every effort through it. As he gets close to the hotel's entrance, a barrage of new scents gives the old wolf further pause. Laid atop the stink of a great many humans, he can perceive the distinctive odour of livestock, and curiosity overtakes caution for an instant. If he can make a kill, the beast's blood could prove a valuable source of liquid refreshment. If it may cause some trouble the humans living here, whatever strange means to enable them to survive in this foul place will likely not suffer much from the loss of a single animal. His need is great. He stalks on towards the source of the smell, trying to obscure himself by clever use of natural blind spots behind furniture and sharp corners. He catches sight of his quarry first, only to freeze up, struck by the alien sight of a bull that walks like a man. When next he moves, sheer shock makes him forget to master the sound of his footsteps. He attracts the strange creature's attention.
Hello, is someone there? If you're looking for a room, I can check you in. It's no trouble at all.
The wolf does then stand the bipedal bovine. Nor could he answer even if he did. Even so, he can sense a genial tone about this bullman. Thinks to try diplomacy again, hoping to earn a place for himself among its herd by force of raw charisma. Perhaps these men will accept him. He can be spared nature's wrath. That precludes him from hurting this creature, however odd it looks. The time it takes the wolf to regain his composure and plan his approach, the bull has started his sortie from behind the desk. It was but a split second for the wolf to take control of the conversation where he's put on the back foot once again. He'll spare himself the indignity of showing this stranger his belly. To just confirm the bull's intention, he has no wish to make himself more vulnerable than necessary. Instead, he opts for a simpler gesture of greeting, the lupine equivalent of a firm, masculine handshake. Lurching forward into the bull's arms, he closes the distance and staring the other male's muzzle in his own before slipping his tongue inside. The height difference makes the position a bit difficult, but the old wolf continues undeterred, relishing what little moisture he can steal as he swallows his partner's spit. A trace of something sweet and sour crawls on the bullman's throat. The wolf laps it up without second thought, even goes so far as to probe his partner's gumline for deeper clue as to its nature. What the bull ate for dinner had an array of complex flavours that are utterly lost on a wild animal's palate. Those did not stop the wolf from trying to get more of it for a few hours of starvation. A long moment passes in this awkward embrace while the bullman recovers from his paralysis. The moment he's regained his faculties, he shoves the wolf away with a panicked thrust of his arm, sending the beast tumbling to the floor with a pained wheeze. The upright ungulate immediately sprints off, bellowing at the top of his lungs.
Master, help! A wolf! Try to eat me!
Disheartened and dishevelled, the wolf rises to his feet. Unsure as the cause of the sudden breakdown in communications, he staggers away in the opposite direction, disappearing into the infinite corridor of the labyrinth in search of a safe place to rest. There we go. Wolf has joined us in the hotel. Since I have a name like Blythe, did you really think I wouldn't go for the wolf? Oh, that was a fun one to do. Hope you like Wolf, and we'll be seeing more of him in the future. As we return back to more Minotaur Hotel, probably January, February. We certainly won't do any more this year. We're getting so close to Christmas, it's worrying. I haven't sent my cards off yet. But as always, before I finish, I want to say thanks to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are very much appreciated. And also thanks for just watching it, if that's what you do. And nice to know people enjoying these things I do. But as always, here are my top patrons. They are Burnt Toast, Kartek, Kobus Vissa, Besuksu, Larkuskaton, Mastian, Brian Hall, Tiger Cub, Ida Corval, Anubis Silverwind, Dissonance, Grizz, Spiderling, Kopi, Sindri Dragowolf, Marcus, Evan King, Exac, Aaron Fox, Mohammed Al-Zamel, Andy Peng, Samuto, Omar, and Big Booty Judy. Special thanks to all of them, and I am thinking of doing something a little special and slightly different as we get closer to the holidays. Maybe do a little something for my patrons. Not all of you, not just top ones. I'm still working on that, so don't get too excited. What I am working on is my schedule. So, next weekend we will be returning to Remember the Flowers. I'll be seeing what's going on there on the Resume Express. And Christmas Eve there will be another look at what's going on in the world of Supernova. We'll be doing that one Christmas Eve. I'll probably record it ahead of time, so I might upload a little earlier that day. If you have plans, you can maybe fit it in before you do anything. Or if you don't have plans, it won't matter, will it? And then there might be a couple more for New Year's. I'm not quite sure, and I need to talk to someone. I'm thinking about starting something else up, like a new series just before the end of the year. Maybe, it depends on your time zone. But that's it for Minotaur Hotel for now, and until next time, bye for now.